Aloha, stay live, everybody. And today here, we're jamming that song.
Yes, we are.
You know why I love it so much? Because I'm going to play it again. I'm
I
going to
know, I
play it.
know. It's amazing. I love the sound.
I'm gonna let that play in the background while we discuss some leadership, tech, and podcasting. Aloha Friday Live, everybody. Thank you for being with us. If you're joining us on LinkedIn, get in the chat, get in those comments. Let us know where you're joining us from. I'm going to throw something to Steve Worthy because he kind of loves you. Let me throw what he said is going to be a great show. Janae, thank you for being with me tonight. I love the topic because it's something down the line of what we are venturing in. Hey, Pod Fest is coming up. I'm excited about that. I saw your friendly face at the town
Yes.
hall, so I'm so excited about that. But hey, let's get into this and let us just give us a little bit about you, what you've been up to this point. Then we'll get into the topic.
Sweet, man. So what I've been up to till this point has been a lot of things, right? I'm a tech enthusiast. I've been following the tech industry for a very long time, and my wife just asked me about something if I ordered it, and I forgot. So it's been an amazing journey overall. Going from tech to software development to software design to then going back to tech, then going to film and going to podcasting, audio, music. Like I've touched every aspect that has to do with film production, that has to do with telling a story, and it's just been amazing. At one point, I was like, oh, if I want to shoot a short film, I should get into script writing because that's something that flows into the actual story aspect of it. Because
Right, right.
everybody thinks that you just have a camera and you can start filming a story, and that's not wrong at all. You're documenting a story, but if you really want to tell a story the way filmmakers and directors and producers they tell a story, you got to go through those step by step, and get up and out there. So in the pandemic, I've been able to construct and evolve my office space into a home studio so that it would become a place that I would feel comfortable coming and showing and sharing what I love to do. And as I solved that problem for myself, people around me start asking me like, dude, what's going on over here? What did you do again? Why do you look so good on the camera?
Right, right.
Can you help me with that? Right. So, and I didn't even think of that other people would want my help. But then it's like when they know somebody and they're so close to them, they're gonna ask help from those people.
Right,
So
right.
I've been very fortunate to be in that spot.
Yeah, and you did a YouTube video that I watched. So I watched it. Um, you know, and when you see yourself on camera, it's just so crisp, right? Everything looks so good that you want to find out. And actually, the video that I was watching was about the iPhone, right? Using
Mm-hmm.
I ruin, I think it is, right?
Yep. Ariane. Yep.
And I had that app on the phone. I had been using it,
Yeah.
but not in the sense of having it as a third or fourth camera. Nowadays I got three cameras in front of me right now, right?
That's right.
And I
Yeah,
got the phone. So as time goes by, you tend to uh just get more equipment, it's just one of those things that happen.
it
But
is. It's absolutely true.
you started, and I love the video of your office space, your
Hmm.
your production center, and you started with a regular room, and now look at your background. That is your room, right? So,
That's
um,
right.
how did that start? When did that start? Look, see, yeah, the camera angle, yeah. So,
So
yeah, when did
absolutely.
that start?
Yeah, absolutely. So it all started when in 2018. So I was doing a podcast, and we were doing these LinkedIn live meetups. And my buddy Rod Ferrier was like, "Hey, Junaid, you're really good with these mobile cameras. How about you teach people how to use a mobile phone to shoot videos, to do production?" So I was like, "Hey, that's not a bad idea." So I went up, I basically listed down all the things that somebody needs to pay attention to. And I went up on stage and I started talking. And then I was kind of stumbling. And then Rod stepped up, was like, "Hey, let me help you and ask questions so then we can have a good conversation." Because, hey, it was my first time. Well, not the first time speaking on stage, but still, you kind of have that, like, how do I even start speaking?
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, "Hey, this is a pretty cool idea. A lot of people could use this. Let me build a course around it." Well, when I went to turn the camera on to build a course around it, all I saw in my basement, we have yellow walls and we had yellow lights. That's the norm, right? And I was like, I don't like this look. What do I do? So I saw a lot of people on LinkedIn, and they were using these vinyl backdrops. They look really nice. And I'm like,
Right.
let me go buy me a vinyl backdrop and I can, do the same thing. I put it all together, and when I finally turned all the cameras on, everything was good. It took me about 2.5 hours just to get to that point. Now, now, if you know us working parents, when you come home from work and you spend this much time, your kids are going to be like, "Dad, come on, stop playing," right?
Yes,
So,
I've heard it. Believe me.
so I'm like, "All right, fine. Maybe I'll come back tomorrow." So the next day I come back and I'm like, "Okay, let me hit record." I hit record and I had nothing coming out of my mouth. Like I was speechless. I'm like, "Okay, there's something other than this stuff that I need to work on." So I'm like, "All right, perfect." So I was like, let me reset, just continue doing the podcast and continue to do the interviews. I started bringing people on the podcast, talking to them, listening to their stories, and then the pandemic hit. Now, by this time, I had already talked to over 150 people on the podcast. I kind of got it how to like talk to people, how to tell a story. And then I'm watching Pat Flynn do live streams, and he's live streaming and he's doing it daily. I'm like, whoa, this guy looks really sharp and clean. And then eventually he put out an article and he said, "Hey, this is the equipment that I'm using on my setup." And I looked through that list and I looked in my closet, my cabinet. I had all the equipment that he was talking about because guess what?
Wow.
I'm a filmmaker, right? So I've been
Right,
doing film
right. Yeah.
for decades. So I'm like, I have all this equipment. What am I waiting for?
Look at that.
So I started putting the stuff together, and it took me about 6 months to a year, and I'm still tweaking stuff around here. I still have one more camera that I want to add, and all these things are always, it's an ever evolving illusion. So that's basically how I solved my own problem. And as I'm solving this problem, and I'm showing up online, and I'm talking about the things that I'm struggling with, I'm being vulnerable, and people are like, "Dude, I love all the inner stuff, but how are you doing this part?"
Mhm, mhm.
So that's the basically, no. I mean, that's long story short. That's the entire reason why I did it and how it came to be.
Well, I love how your life met. your prior life led to the acquisition of all this equipment, right? You're doing this before, and
Yeah.
then now you're starting on a different journey, which is the podcasting, and then you see this and that, and lo and behold, you have all that. Now,
Hmm.
there's a lot of people out there, and for those of you joining me or joining us tonight, you may be looking at both of our screens. I was saying, man, how do I get that?
Hmm.
Well, Junaid had his equipment. I had to get equipment, right? But but thankfully, you know, I had been investing in content all this time
Yes.
that led to sponsors. Now,
There you go.
sponsors
Hmm.
took care of my equipment. I'm going to tell you that right now,
That's right.
right? And at first, it was just it was the cell phone, and so and thank goodness for, let's say, the quality of phones in general,
Yeah.
iPhones, uh, any of those things are already equipped with 4K video. I have the option when I'm shooting, right? The back facing option to say 4K,
Yes.
30 or 60. And so you
Hmm.
have these opportunities to already use what you have in your hand. Now, you had a history in this. I had some equipment. I'm not going to say I didn't have it, but when you go and purchase, let's say, a mic, a lot of people don't know that there are different types of mics.
Oh yeah.
I have a Rodecaster
Hmm.
that has the ability to power a mic. So these are things that you just don't know.
No.
Um, but for a novice person that's looking, say, man, Janae and Enrique have it going on. Look at the quality. Oh my goodness, they got the back all fuzzy. Enrique's in Hawaii. I don't know how he got there. Right? When all these people answering, asking these questions about themselves, how much, where should they start? And we
Right.
cover this a lot in all of our content, but where should they
Hmm.
start?
Well, the first thing I've been harping on the same thing. What's the first thing that you do when you enter a room? You turn on the lights, right? What do? You turn on the lights. Well, that's the thing. What you want to do first is to turn on the lights for your studio. Get a good set of lights, or pick a day, pick the time of the day where you know there's going to be plenty of light coming in from your window. And if that's the case, if you have too much light coming in, we can always add a white sheet of paper, or white sheet of a bed sheet, or white, some kind of way to diffuse that light.
Right, diffuser, yeah.
And when you diffuse those lights, then you get the soft light, soft shadow, and you look pleasing to the eye. You look pleasing to the camera as well.
Yeah, and so folks, if you're listening and you don't have anything, and that's okay. A lot of people stress this. They make more of it than what they need to, and
Right.
we only know that because after so much money down the drain, you're like, man, I could have done that with this, that, and the other. Um,
Yes.
but if you're a techie, if you're a person that just likes tech and the advancement of tech, you may gonna purchase and something anyway. Uh,
Right.
but
Exactly.
but if you don't have that type of resource at the time, then the best thing is to use what you have. And
Yeah.
so if you do have a room with windows, or you happen to be, let's say, in an attic space that don't have windows,
Hmm.
then you do want to make sure that the lighting is adequate enough, because we're going there's always this talk of AVL, right? Audio,
Yes.
video and lighting. Those are
Hmm.
the three key things that you have to focus on.
Yep.
um and there's a lot of cheap but good audio that you can connect to your phone, right? We were mentioning
Yes.
the video quality of the phone. So
Hmm.
let's step into the video piece, because you don't have to really break the bank. You're already,
No, not at all.
Lord knows, you're paying a whole lot for this phone.
Absolutely. And what's the beautiful thing is, if you're already using your phone in creating the content, work on the storytelling aspect of it, because that's something you cannot buy. You can buy courses around how to tell a story. You can buy those things, but you still have to put in the work. Like Travis Lackner said, you gotta put in the reps. Once you put in the reps, you will get better at talking to the camera, talking to your audience, talking to yourself, even, because essentially that's what we're doing. And when you look good and when you can articulate your thoughts into words on the video, then you know that you're getting comfortable in front of the camera, because that's the first thing, right? The problem that we have with recording video is that we look at ourselves, and when we look at ourselves, if we don't like what we see, you feel a little bit of, okay, I don't know if what I'm saying is going to matter. But the more you practice, the better you'll get at telling that story.
Now, talking about story and your history in production, movie, doing those things. How how much did that really have to play in the fact that you was able to do this real quick?
Right.
And how much of it do you need to get started? Because we'll get into the story bit, because it really is that's the gold.
Right. Right.
That's
Exactly. That's the
really the
goal.
gold. All this semantic stuff, all this equipment stuff, um, cannot tell a story for you.
Right.
But
People come
how
for
much of
you.
your background, really came into play to making this come together, and how much would they need to get
Sure.
it?
That's a great question. And so I've been behind the camera um, for at least 3 decades, if I'm not wrong. So I've been,
Wow.
shooting photos, film cameras. Then we had film, movie cameras like 8 millimeters, where you drop in the tape and, you have to rewind
Mhm.
to get to the beginning of the part and start recording. So we would like run around with those cameras in the parks, and we just do random stuff, setting up on them on tripods, doing these little tiny events where all the kids would get together. So I've been behind the camera for a very long time. And then in 2013, my wife's like, "Here, I'm gonna get you a DSLR." I was like, "Whoa, this thing is gonna be
Mhm.
awesome." I got this DSLR, and the first thing that I did was I went over to lynda.com, which is now part of LinkedIn
Right.
Learning, and they had foundations of photography.
Mm.
So I took lessons to understand how do I use this tool that I just bought, right? So foundations of photography, foundations of composition, foundations of lenses, cameras. So I learned all of this stuff. I started applying, and as I'm going through these courses, I was like, wait, I could have applied these same techniques to the older cameras that I've used to have, right? So I'm thinking and putting all these pieces together. And then of course I joined other photography meetups where they would teach me how to use the camera, what the different things are. So actually applying what I learned, applying and taking action on what I learned. And then I was like, you know what, I really want to get into film making. So I joined another film meetup group and met with the Boulder Film Festival, did a lot of volunteer work with them. And then people that I met there, they're like, "Hey, Junaid, we're shooting a web series, we're shooting a TV series. Do you mind coming and shooting some behind the scenes videos? It's like a volunteer. It's something do you do with passion." So when you really go deep into what you want to do out of it, so that's kind of what my background is really going into the one thing and just going as deep as possible to understand everything, all the all the pieces that make that aspect possible. So
And
bringing all of that together is what helped me get to this point. Like my lighting wasn't on point even last year. I was like, wait, I need to adjust this light a bit. I can't adjust it too much because there are some cheaper lights that you can buy that only have three settings, a low
right.
light, a high light, or turn it off.
Yeah, I have some that it's just through the process of finding out what works with your room, what works with
Right.
you.
Exactly.
There's shadows, there's this, that, and the other. You have a soft light in front of you. Everything
Mm-hmm.
else is dark. I like so I have a green screen, so I have to have that backlighting, that
Backlighting,
lighting
yes.
hit the screen, that to have something in front of me. So there's so much that you
Oh
can
yeah,
do depending on what type of room you have set up. But
absolutely.
I love that you went through the experimental route, and then you through education,
Mm-hmm.
which folks look, you could buy all the equipment you want and not know how to use it.
Yeah.
And so I love that you threw the education piece because it also highlighted the fact that you could have used the same information
Mm-hmm.
to older model cameras
Yeah.
and some so everybody's went out and tried to get the M50. I don't know. It's just a
Like, oh,
pandemic hit,
oh, yeah.
M50 winner, right?
Yep. Yep.
Because they saw you if you do this,
That's what everybody's using.
right,
They saw,
right.
hey, what is this guy using? Let me go get that.
Let me
And
go
then they
get that.
yeah.
But
And
if you don't know how to use the M50,
mm-hmm. No point.
you you just spent $600 on something that you don't. So you have to get educated. And for those
Yes.
that are listening, want to do podcasting, want to do live streaming, and we're going to be covering that here in May in Orlando, Podfest Expo, right? In May, and we'll throw some dates out there for you guys to see. But Podfest Expo is May 26th through the 29th, and it's here in Orlando at the Hilton. More information, hey, just send me up on a DM, or Janaid, you can ask him, right?
Yep.
Because
Ask
he's
me up.
involved as well. So it's one of those things that is, if you don't educate yourself, if you don't look into really what you need, then you may be overspending without necessity,
Yeah.
and you also may be overspending and then losing that value for those equipment because you're just not savvy enough. Hey, the good thing is, just like Janaid shares how he structured that room that he's in,
Mm-hmm.
and what he uses. There are videos, folks, that'll
Oh
take you
yeah.
through the whole
They'll
process. And
tell you exactly what to
I
do.
guarantee, I guarantee you, I wouldn't be where I'm at without YouTube and those videos, right? So you did something earlier, and I love this. And Crystal, hello, my sister. Thank you for joining
Hey,
us
Crystal.
tonight and being with us. You did a switch in the camera. If you don't mind throwing that switch in there, folks, you see how beautiful that thing just transitioned there. You know, he has a multiple camera setup, and tell us about the multiple camera setup and why it's that important. And when you go from one side to the other, and you see that whole room view,
Mm-hmm.
kind of, it just makes you happy. I know I'm
It
happy
does.
over here.
Yeah. So one of the reasons that I went with this switcher or this capture device per se was it was March 2020. Everybody's going and running out and getting these sorry, not eCam, Elgato CamLink 4K capture devices. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's just a little USB dongle that brings HDMI content directly to your computer. And so those things were selling like hotcakes. People are buying them for like $200. I'm like, whoa, that's too much. And it just turned out that Blackmagic had just put out this device called the Blackmagic Atem Mini. Now, Atem Mini was designed for in-person multi-camera angle setup podcasting because people want to be able to capture multiple angles. You have the guest and the host sitting down, so you have the wide shot, then you have a guest only shot, then you have the host only shot. So how do you switch between those three shots? Well, they've got multiple cameras hooked up coming on to this thing, and then you can do these multiple shots. Of course, it also has ability to do overlays and stuff like that, but it was really designed to stream that kind of content out to the internet. but nobody knew that this pandemic was going to hit and everybody's going to be working from home. And that thing was only $300 when I purchased it. And I think you can still find the base model for that price. But being able to connect 4 different cameras, especially when you have the ability to now you on Amazon Live, you can showcase products. So people have a camera mounted on top, a camera mounted on the side, camera mounted on the products that they're looking at. And you can just quickly switch between the multiple camera angles. My reasoning behind why I wanted to get this, and I upgraded it from the first version to the second version to the third version, was that it has the ability to also record content directly on an external drive. So I can connect a USB drive, something like this, directly to this Atem Mini, hit record, and all the 4 feeds of video that's coming into it gets recorded into separate files, and then I can bring it into my editing software, cut it up just the way I want it. If I'm pausing too much, I can switch the camera angles from one to the other, or apply different jump cut techniques. And so that's one of the reasons why I went with this device.
Yeah, and I'm a supporter of the ATEM. I have one myself, and if
Nice.
you don't get to look around people's studio, but I got a cloud lifter, I got
Nice.
the focus right, I got the broadcaster, I got the
Mm-hmm.
ATEM, I got multiple cameras, there's lighting
Nice.
everywhere.
Yeah.
You come in my studios, you're like, whoa, what in
Yeah.
the world? But
Exactly.
I had mentioned that for those that are not professionals in this field, like this is something that you use on a day-to-day basis. Now,
Mm-hmm.
a person like me that has 4 shows, I don't know how I do it.
You do
Janae,
make
I
it
don't
happen.
know how I do it, but it's done. You get to use this stuff all the time.
Right.
And so it
Exactly.
makes sense that if you're constantly using this, that that type of money be invested in it. But you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned a broadcaster is like $600, and then the
Mm-hmm.
ATEM is 3 to 4. That's $1,000, folks.
Yes, sir.
I don't know how many people got $1,000 running around just to buy 2 pieces of equipment that won't get you anywhere because you need a mic, you
You
need
still need a
cameras,
mic. You still need 4 cameras. That's
right?
another $1,000 each, right?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
depending on the type of camera, if it's DSLR, if you go with an M200, like that's what I use, the M200.
The M200.
Uh,
Yep.
it depends. It depends what you want to see. What you want to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
I went with the M200 because it flips the screen up,
Yes.
and
And
so
you
I
can
could
see
see it.
yourself back.
Right.
Yeah.
The M50 you could flip it out,
To
but
the
it's to the
side.
side, and then
Yeah.
you're always kind of like looking to the side.
Look at
So
the
there's
side. Like,
these little things, right, that
yes.
people like, people don't like. However, um,
Yeah.
but what I want you to address now is what I absolutely need.
Mm.
What do I absolutely need without breaking the bank, so that I can get going? So uh we're gonna be at Podfest. We're gonna be talking podcasting. We're gonna be talking live streaming. We're gonna be talking all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Audio. Right? LinkedIn has audio now, so these things can get consuming and they
Oh,
can get
yes.
pricey, right. So what would you suggest that somebody would start with if they wanted to get into this?
So if they want to get into, let's say, podcasting, the first thing that you need to know is, hey, what's your story for podcasting?
Hmm.
Are you planning on video, or is this going to be audio only? Because if it's all the audio only, and that's how I started, I just used my smartphone. I plugged my smartphone to my headphones and I launched this app called Anchor.fm. I got in my car and I just started talking. That's how I started my little podcast. So if you want to be very simple and get moving, you got to take action. There's my wife's trainer tells her, there's a 2-minute training that you got to do. So you every day, you just take 2 minutes, take your shoes out, put them on, take them off, put them away. So every day you just do that little bit, And then guess what? Within a week, that 2 minutes is going to become 5 minutes because now you're like, wait, I'm already wearing shoes. Why don't I just go outside and start running? Right. So from that perspective, think about what is the end goal for what you're starting out? Are you just there to tell a story? Are you just there to exercise? Are you just there to now? I know you're probably asking me the question, hey Janet, I want to monetize with my podcast. Well, to get to that level, you still gotta have the reps in. People are only going to pay for something when they see the quality and the value. And the only way you get the quality and value is to actually start working towards that thing. So, number one thing, start the story, um, start recording on your phone. All right. The simplest setup that you can do for podcasting and live streaming is literally your smartphone. And you need a light, your smartphone, your computer, and probably a good microphone, a USB microphone that you can put in front of you. You can hook up your smartphone to a power charger. Using Wi Fi, you can use that as a webcam. So now you got high quality video, you got high quality audio to a USB microphone, and you got a nice set of lights. Now, what goes in your background should be very easy because it should be talking about who you are, should be talking about what you love to do. I love the colors red and blue, so I got the red and blue in my background. I don't know if you can see, but I have DC Comics back here. I've got another poster of Marvel right over
Yeah, we
here.
could see it. Yeah, I was gonna say we
Right.
could see it in that angle, right?
Yes. So you see Marvel over here. You got DC back there. So whatever makes you passionate, put that in your background. And as you build this stuff up, you're gonna be like, oh, I can move this over here. You know, you're gonna get good at it. But you gotta take
And
action.
I love it. The 2 minute drill. That's what I'm gonna dub it. two
The
minute
2 minute
drill.
drill. That's right.
Yeah, yeah. You have to start somewhere, baby steps. And some folks might be saying, "Well, Enrique, but this is the leadership thing," and you talk about podcasting. If you cannot see the leadership lessons in all of this, then you're missing the big picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to start small.
That's right.
It doesn't matter what it is that you're doing. If you try to skip some steps, you're only gonna delay the fact that you have to come back and
Yes.
still get those steps in. You're still gonna have to do it.
You
So
do.
methodically, slowly, get through the reps, get through the process. And if you would, you do that 2 minute drill with whatever it is that
Mm-hmm.
you're doing, whether you want to run, throw some sneakers on, whether you want to record, you know, make your 2 minute drill something that where, okay, this is how I plug things in. Okay, everything's ready to go. If you don't record, okay, let's go
That's
the
okay.
next day
Yeah.
until you actually hit the record button.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as a good friend of ours and YouTube says, and just get going. And so it doesn't cost too much when you're already
Mm-hmm.
paying for something. So you might
Mm-hmm.
as well use it, people. Don't let your resources, because I was talking about that, Janae, today.
Mm-hmm.
I was there was an individual, my wife and I were talking concerning their situation. And my question was, what are they gonna do with six figures that they can't do with two figures? If you can't do it with two, I'm not gonna expect you to do it with six, right? So
Exactly.
so it's one of those things you have to start slow, but get going. Now, we're coming up on this Podfest time. I'm happy that we're having it. You know, where people come in. There's so
Mm-hmm.
many folks like yourself and so many others that I know in this arena of Podfest,
Yeah.
podcasting, and live streaming that are going to be there. So I'm happy to be part of that this year once again.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
what what are you looking for? What are you talking about? What are you looking for in that event?
Well, in 2019, I had booked my ticket for Podfest. I was like, I'm going to go here and I'm going to meet all these people. But it didn't happen because we ended up going with the family to visit in California. So uh, then I was like, okay, I can do some virtual ones. In 2021, we did a virtual one, and my friend Andrew Andrew Wong of Inspired Money podcast was like,
Right,
"Hey,
right.
Junaid, you can come
Yeah, I
talk."
know.
And so this year, I'm super excited to I put in the form like, "Hey, I want to speak about this topic: how to create a buzz with by upgrading your studio for your podcast." So they picked me, and I'm like, so I'm excited to go up on stage and freak myself out. Like, I don't know what I'm doing up here, but this is what I know.
Right, right. Oh my goodness.
As well as meet other amazing people like yourself and my good friend Heather Parody and Rich Cardona and uh, so many people that are showing up. I'm super excited to see them.
Yeah, I know Andrew. He's we actually spoke last year
Hmm.
on the same we were on the LinkedIn club. That's
LinkedIn
what we were
Club,
talking
nice.
about,
Yeah,
LinkedIn.
yeah, yeah.
I was talking about LinkedIn at that time. This year I'll be speaking about this very event on LinkedIn
Mhm.
Live. So that's my topic, LinkedIn
Nice.
Live. And so I'm excited for that. And just you mentioned getting out there, right?
Hmm.
Talking at this stage. It's one of those things that you just, kind of like we just mentioned, you just got to get up there and do it. And our community is pretty, we're not going to throw tomatoes, right? We're not, but and we're understanding that this is a process for everybody. So everybody has a level of growth to get to this point. And for all for all that are listening and are interested, that we'll share the link to Podfest Expo at the bottom of the screen. You'll see that. But it's not only exciting to be able to see all these different people that we've been connected with for the last several years, right? And we're just now getting to the point where we can get to each other, but to hear the perspective live is different. And we're talking about this whole process now, but when you get into that environment, there's so many people that have a perspective, and now you're all in the same room, and
I
that's what
know.
I'm excited about.
It's that you're absolutely right. I've seen those uplift the thing Tony Robbins puts together, right? All these
Mhm.
people are sitting and he's speaking, and he picks on one person, tells a story, and like immediately that guy's switched his mindset. But it's the mindset, similar mindset. You're hanging out with people who have the same mindset. It makes life so much amazing and easier.
and
Sorry, my
and
son is here. He needs some help with his
yeah, yeah. Look, I tell folks all the
whatever.
time, this is life. If other people can't deal with life, I don't know what to tell you. But and my son will normally creep in, and he slowly makes his way down here by the desk. So I understand it. Now we we started to talk about this, and I
Yeah,
paused because I
man.
really wanted to talk about the tech side of stuff, but storytelling, folks. If you're out there, I don't care if you're a follower
Hmm.
and that's your profession. I don't care if you're a leader and that's your profession. I don't care if you're an executive and that's where you stay. You have a story to tell, or nobody cares.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about storytelling, because you had to get in order to get into podcasts, in order to get into live streaming, in order to do that, you had to surround yourself around a story. My story is leadership. That's what I do. That's what I surround myself with, and that's what I speak about. So when you started to go down this road and you're thinking about, man, what am I going to talk about here? What was it that you gravitated around in order to just go ahead and launch?
Well, that's an excellent question. I like you said, I didn't have a story. I didn't know what to talk about. But I was reading. I was just putting in good stuff in my head, and I read the book "Get" by Gary Vaynerchuk, "Crush It" and "Crushing It." And at the end of "Crushing It," he says, "Just document your journey." I'm like, hey, that's easy enough to do. What journey am I on right now? And in 2018 springtime, I had just finished reading the book, and I had also finished my beekeeping classes, 8-week course on how to become a beekeeper. So I was like, hey, I'll document my beekeeping journey. So for 1 year, like I mentioned earlier, I just grabbed my phone, put on a headset, got in my car, and just talked about beekeeping. I documented that journey. As I documented this journey, I was still not 100% accurate on how to tell a story, even though I had a ton of stories in me. But I had to listen to other people telling their stories by either being a guest on their podcast or inviting them to be a guest on my podcast, listening to their stories. See, the more we hear stories from other people and the way they articulate the story and tell you story, or if you're reading a ton of books, that also teaches you how to tell your story. So those are the things that I gravitated toward. I read a lot of sci-fi books that didn't they gave me a little bit of hint of, how to tell a fun story, but not how I could tell my story. So I was like, okay, let me go listen to uh autobiographies like Kevin Hart's autobiography, Steve Jobs, all of these people, and it was like, okay, I got it. I see what's happening. But then it was really when I talked to people on the podcast and then asked them, hey, so tell me about how you started or what got you interested into becoming somebody who would be a bodybuilder or a lifestyle coach or an actor. Like, how did you become an actor, or what inspired you to uh, do this film? So I started asking those questions, and I started getting the answers that my mind was looking for.
I tell you that beekeeping, Junaid, I did not, I would have never guessed that beekeep, you know, I love me some honey, but I am
Mhm.
not going by no bees. And we have, hey Russ, thank you for being with
Hey,
us. I just
Russ.
want to throw it.
Good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, Russ and Jacob, thank you, brother, for being with us tonight. I appreciate it. I had an incident. You want to go beekeeping? I want to
Mhm.
go bee running from, right. When I was a child, there was this big bush, and it had nice little pink flowers. And in Puerto
Mm.
Rico, they grow
Mhm.
all up on the mountain hill,
Yeah.
and so uh, at the time I was in this makeshift house. I'll tell you that it was a
Mhm.
makeshift house, wood floors, and then it was no grass. It was nothing but dirt out there. And so I'm running through, and I had nice little flowers. Let me go pick some flowers. Well, I should have never picked the flowers because I all of a sudden the bees came out of nowhere. So while you're harvesting, and I hope you got a whole lot of honey out of that if you
Oh
did.
yeah, we did get a whole lot of honey. I do have a guest here. Say hi.
Hey, hi.
She was saying hi
Oh,
this whole time, and now she wants to run away.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's funny, man.
So you're keeping these bees. What made you interested in that? Or was it just straight curiosity? Hey, can I do this? Because that would be one of the things. Can I do this? I know I won't want to do this, but what what was it for you? Just you wanted to expand your
Sure.
horizons.
Sure. So it was mainly because our doctor or my son's doctor said, "Hey, he's got a lot of allergies, and local honey would be
Oh,
really
perfect,
good for beekeeping." So I mean,
perfect.
for
Yeah.
his seasonal allergies. So I was like, "All right." So that was like 8 years ago, or almost 10 years ago before I even got into beekeeping. And then so, I just filed it away in my head. So then finally when we moved into this place, I was like, hey, we have the space to actually keep bees. And then
Wow.
that's basically where the journey started.
Wow, amazing. And yes, I for any out there that know about allergies, that's something that's commonly um suggested by doctors because it's a non-medical way of getting somebody acclimated to
Mm-hmm.
what the environment is because they do
Exactly.
they the bees go from place to place and they gather all this things and then you could grow out of some allergies
Yeah.
that way. I just love it for the taste. I love it
Mm-hmm.
for cooking. I like
Oh yeah.
cooking some Hawaiian dishes and
Oh man.
honey and brown sugar and soy sauce. That's kind of
Oh
like the
yeah.
three. And then you throw some ginger. And let me not start because I'll make myself hungry. But that's one of those things that we use to get some of that great Hawaiian flavor in the
Nice.
food. So um, your studio is set up, your equipment is set up, everything's going well,
Mm-hmm.
and we talked about story, and it's funny because Jacob says his story is financial independence, and what do you say? Hey, what's going on? Yes, thank you. He is, and that's why we have him here tonight.
Oh,
Um,
thanks, man.
we talk about a story. Uh, Anybody out there that's having leadership challenges, it's amazing what your story can do for your people. And a lot of leaders shy away from telling their story. And, I was wondering, have you had an opportunity in leadership to share your story and how that has or has not changed the dynamic with coworkers, with folks that are around you, following you? Because I know every time I share my story as a
Mm-hmm.
leader, it it humanizes me.
Absolutely. It does because you are connecting on a level that's easily understandable. You're being vulnerable. You're being tolerant by telling a story that is connected with others on a deeper level. My one of my colleagues went on a huge adventure, a huge transformation after he moved out and moved out. He actually moved out to Florida. He just started walking because that was one way that he could clear his mind. Over that 1 year, he ended up walking 1,000 miles. And
Wow,
he's like, this is the best shape that I've ever been in my life.
look at that.
Right. So you gotta, what did he do? He could have been just moping and, not be in that state. But he's like, no, I've got to make a change. You gotta have a mindset of growth. I was listening to Eric M. Twig's podcast episode on this podcast, and he was talking about there's two types of mindset. There's the static mindset, and then there's a growth mindset. Right? When you have a growth mindset, you're gonna do everything possibly can to expand your mind, and that's basically what leadership is. You're open, you're teaching others of what you've learned, and you're assisting and helping and supporting them every which way you can for them to help and grow as well.
And that's the piece that I love, and why I love to share my story
Hmm.
when I come into a leadership role. Now I'm working for myself now, so I tell myself the stories. But but when I would be in an organization, I would share those for the
Hmm.
sake of that they need to know that, yeah, I'm here in this position or whatever it may be, but I was where you are,
Hmm.
and so if you want any aspirations coming here,
Yeah.
then let me cut at least some pain points for you
Right.
while you can make it up here maybe faster with a better understanding of what it's going to take for you to be in this position. Folks, we've been talking about leadership. We've been talking about tech. We've been talking about podcasting. Junaid will be at Podfest, and I'm going to throw that out there one more time so that you can see the dates, May 26th through the 29th at the Hilton here in sunny yet so cold Orlando. Maybe by May we won't be. Everybody's like, yo, what's going on? Who brought Mr. Frost down here? But the whole East Coast is experiencing this.
Yep.
So I'm not gonna cry too much. I grew up in the Bronx, so I know what cold is.
That's
and
right.
and I don't want that anymore. But so for those of us that have been joining us, if you really think about life and all the things that you can do, you can tie it to leadership in one way or another. And what I'm going to leave you guys with this, and then I'm going to let Junaid talk a little bit prior to closing here. If you have the equipment for leadership and don't know how to use it, so what? I'm going to tell you that right straight. If you have a story and you don't tell it, so what? Right? And if you cannot humanize yourself to the point where your people are willing to follow you because you are vulnerable and accessible and human, so what?
Yeah.
Because the people need leaders that they can actually find themselves in.
Yes.
And if you can do that, folks, as leaders, you're going to be a powerful leader and one that will impact the life for a long time. Junaid, I'm going to let you close us out. I know that was a heavy hitting.
that was a good one.
But yeah, go ahead. Close us out with something that you know we need to know.
Well, like you mentioned earlier, when you tell your story, you humanize yourself, you connect with people on a deeper level, and because we've gone through the journey, because you have to go through the journey of going from a caterpillar to the butterfly. The butterfly knows what it's like to be a caterpillar, but the caterpillar doesn't. So be like the butterfly, or follow the butterfly. I made made some comments yesterday on Osama's, and you gotta be you gotta follow the butterfly and follow in its step. Just do what your heart tells you. Keep going. Ignore the naysayers. Just keep doing what you love to do, sharing your story. Thank you so much, Enrique, for having me here.
Yes, definitely, folks. I've been a good hour, 50-something minutes of leadership, tech, and podcasting with Junaid. And I'm telling you, you don't want to miss listening to him about his story, his podcasting journey here in May. If you can make it and you're in this area, go ahead and do that. But short of that, how can they get a hold of you to connect with you and to help them?
Absolutely. So they can find me over at LinkedIn at Super Junaid, or on all other platforms at Super Junaid. And if you need help with your home studio setup, I'm running a 5-day free challenge called Home Studio over at homestudiomastery.com. We're running from February 7th to the 11th, so you can get all the things that you need to set up and transform your office into a home studio. It is free, so come join me over at homestudiomastery.com.
Hey, you don't want to miss that. I'm telling you, what he's done with his studio is amazing. I love it. If you want to do that with yours or a space, you might want to join. Here, this is the last Friday of January. I can't believe it. This whole month has flown by. and here we're going in February. Folks, join Junaid in that mastermind class to get your studio up and running. Junaid, thank you so much, brother, for being with me tonight and sharing with me. For everybody out there, we'll see you next week. And we always like to, and I'm going to throw this out there, we always like to get somebody these nice cookies. And people don't understand how good these Honolulu Cookie Company cookies are. And so somebody is going to get that tonight.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'll be happy to let you know next week who got it. For folks, we appreciate you being with us tonight. Have a great Friday and a great weekend.